Dana Tassone here with participants in HFT 6228, talking about Chapter 1 of the text. Interesting thing about textbooks. The majority of people who read textbooks barely glance at the table of contents and don't even bother to read the preface. Instead, they dig right into the book and start reading. And then later on, they come to the conclusion that they don't know what the author's talking about. And the opportunity to understand the logic of an author is to read the table of contents, read the parts, and read the preface that the author writes. In this particular book, the first part of the book, the first few chapters, deals with the evolution that got us into our current situation with HR. It explains the social factors, business factors, numerous factors that got us to the point in development that caused organizations to invest in human capital, which we've touched on and we'll touch on a zillion times before we're done. So the second part deals with current knowledge. A description of what the functions within the realm of human resource management are. And then the final chapters, probably the important ones, go on to explain how HR practitioners actually do it. And the text, as most texts do, culminates in a final chapter that puts all of these things together. All of the practices, all of the strategies, all of the things that human resource people do, practitioners do, and all of the things that a person who would like an overview of the function would require. Now you have read the first chapter of the book, and just like the first chapter of any text, the chapter merely tells you what it's going to tell you. It describes the path that the book will take. So in essence, what that chapter does is it gives us an overview of the text. Now, let me discuss something that I would say it's a personal opinion, but it's more than that, because I've learned this from both experience and education. Some people treat the field of human resource management, human resource development, as a mutually exclusive entity of any other function. And there are people who teach it from that perspective, and the saddest part is there are people who practice it from that perspective. And in my opinion, and in the opinion of successful people that I've known in the field, that can't be further from the truth. The fact of the matter is that human resource management is a subspecialty, if you would. It's a specialization that exists within the domain of management. we can't know or thoroughly understand the concepts associated with human resource management until we first know the concepts associated with general management. For instance, if a person goes to school and gets an MBA, that person is trained in the field of general management. He or she comes out with analytical skills relative to all of the functions associated with management. And, what is management? Management is accomplishing the objectives of an organization through the activities of others. What is human resource management? Human resource management is a focus on the maximization of human capital to accomplish the objectives of the organization. So when you in my career, I met a lot of people who were given positions in HR, and they were somewhat ineffective. And as I got to know these people, I learned that they were just people who were promoted somehow from administrative ranks in various organizations. And these were people who did not have management training. So a person who has the knowledge and the skills associated with organizational business functions and organizational systems and organizational outcomes, that person is trained in the field of general management. Now, let's say a person wants to pursue the field of human resource management. Well, that person would, once that person has the basis of general management knowledge and has practiced that knowledge and has demonstrated proficiency in it, that person would seek to learn the intricacies associated with the subspecialization called human resource management, which is just a field associated with general management. Just as information technology is a specialized field, accounting is a specialized field, finance is a specialized field. These are all specializations within organizations that exist for the purpose of establishing the strategic direction for the firm through the planning and implementation of strategies within their respective areas. The three I just mentioned happen to be resource-based. Resource-based meaning inputs to a system that generates outputs, which equals revenue. I know I'm going to end up talking quite a lot about that. Now, when I say that human resources is a specialization or a subspecialty, don't let me confuse you, because within the realm of human resource management, there are people called generalists and people called specialists. So a person who is a generalist within the human resource function is a person who practices a specialty, subspecialty of management known as human resource management, human resource development. So within the domain of human resources, so the generalists would be human resource, a vice president of human resources, a director, a manager, human resource manager, a human resource supervisor, a human resource administrator. Those people are generalists. Why are they generalists? Because they oversee and they practice all of the specific functions within the HR domain. So who are the specialists within HR? The specialists would be a compensation administrator, a training manager, an employment manager who focuses on recruitment and selection practices, a legal compliance officer. That's a specialization. So the thing to know, just for your own logic and for testing purposes, obviously, is there are generalists and there are specialists in the field of human resource management. But the point I'm trying to make here is that an effective individual in the field of human resource management must, in my opinion, strongly in my opinion, must first be a manager. The first one becomes a manager, and then one, if he or she chooses, specializes in human resource management. So, getting back to an education scenario, the MBA comes out of school and knows about management, general management. He or she goes through his or her practice, his or her residence in organizations, demonstrates his or her proficiency through practicing, and chooses then to go into a specialization, human resource management. He or she would seek specialized training. In the case of academics, an MS degree in human resource management. And that degree would provide all of the specialization topics that a person would need to know to be a practitioner. And please, don't get me wrong. This isn't, education is not the only way to go. There are other ways to go that do not require academic attendance. There are mentorships. There are certification programs. There are training programs. There are many ways to get both the general management skills and the specific management skills in human resource management that a person would want or need in that field. So, who's the right type of person to do HR management? Well, it's mostly a female-dominated domain. It's mostly people who come from organizational administrative ranks, especially in our industry. They're not operations people for the most part. They're administrative people. And they're people who seek to assist the internal clients, if you will, of the organization, those being the employees. Well-founded, heartfelt, wonderful intention. The downfall is that if these individuals do not understand operations, if they don't understand the other functions within an organization, chances are they won't be effective. We have discussed, and we're discussing again, I think, people that today are saying HR should not just be a support function, it should be part of the strategic direction of the firm. Well, as we know, that's the reason, that's how HR came to be. HR used to be known as personnel. And a personnel administrator was a record keeper and had nothing to do, it's a very low-level job, had nothing to do, usually it was sorry to say, it was usually an administrative person, secretary, who got older, was with the company for 25 years, and they put her in the basement, it was always a her back then, put her in the basement, and she was in charge of keeping the records for the employees. It wasn't until the concept of human capital came along that the term personnel was converted into human resources. And this happened late 70s, early 80s, and still took a decade to catch on. People didn't understand the concept, and they didn't understand the terminology, and rightfully so, because it was never explained. So why is it that we have people today who do not feel that the HR function isn't represented at the strategic level of an organization? Simply because those people lack the knowledge and skills and abilities to function at that very high level of the organization. And so what happens is, and a lot of this too is the organizational philosophy, the organizational culture. The organization, the chief operating officer, the chief executive officer, places individuals in these HR positions and does not permit them to function at the strategic level. And the types of people that we've just been talking about couldn't function at that level anyway. Why? They lack the training. Again, it's not education. It's training. Training is training is training. So whether you get the training in the field, you get the training through certification processes, if you get the training through academic institutions, doesn't matter. It's training. And then what comes after that? Practice. Those who have been kind enough to work with me in the past know that I preach that management is not an academic discipline. It's a practice. It's just like any other professional practice. If you look at a physician goes to med school, just gets knowledge. A physician does residency, and the physician learns during residency how to actually practice what he or she learned all the years in school. And then, if the physician wants to pursue a specialty, which most do, then that physician goes on for further training to gain the certification in that specialty, awarded by a board comprised of peers who are pinnacles of that specialty. Same is true with management. But you don't have to go to school, but you do have to learn how to be a quote-unquote professional manager. And the successful HR manager is the person who knows so much about management that he or she is a manager's manager. You'll see that phrase a number of times in the book. A manager's manager. In other words, it's like a physician. Physician goes and gets an MD, and then the physician goes on and gets a PhD in medicine. That person's called a doctor's doctor. With a manager's manager, it's a person who knows so much about management that he or she continuously teaches other people how to manage. So that's the underlying philosophy, and I know that a lot of people in academic settings teach or profess human resource management as if it's a mutually exclusive entity. It exists all by itself, and it's taught usually from a very specified case study perspective. That fat book I told you about. Fortunately for me, these people use my fat book. It's full of academic theories and such in the field. So chapter 1 is basically telling us what the book is going to tell us. The table of contents and the preface give the logic of the author so that we can follow that person's mind stream. It's so funny because people don't read this stuff, and then they say halfway into a book, I don't know where this person's coming from. This book doesn't make any sense to me. Well, did you read the first part? Did you read what preceded chapter 1? If you read that, the author probably told you. And it's just like your paper. The first chapter of a textbook tells you what it's going to tell you. The first introductory section of your paper, you'll be telling the readers what you're going to tell them. We're probably out of time, and I'll see you in the